my key in the door, my name on the lease. And yet, I stood there, dripping wet, shirt clinging to my chest, the stinging heat of boiling water still burning across my shoulder, and she screamed at me like I was dirt. "Beggars, get out!" She slammed the door so hard behind me, I could feel the floor shake. The steam rose from my skin into the freezing Minnesota air. My duffel bag lay torn on the porch. My laptop? Gone. My passport? Probably in her shredder by now. I never raised my voice. Never hit back. Never embarrassed her in public. 4 or 5 years, I paid the bills, cooked the meals, gave her everything she asked for, and she threw me out like a stray dog. But you want to know the worst part? She thought I was broke. She really believed the man who paid for her Range Rover in cash was now too poor to matter. I never told her how much I made. Thought it didn't matter. Love, right? Wrong. The night before, I came home from a silent business trip. Government contract, 3 weeks offline, nothing shared. She thought I was cheating. Instead, she was. I walked in, suitcase in hand, and she screamed, "Who do you think you are? You disappear and expect me to wait like some pathetic housewife?" Then came the boiling pot. She didn't ask questions. She didn't wait for answers. She assumed, and she punished me. My home, my marriage, my life, now burned. But this wasn't the end of my story. It was the moment I stopped surviving and started planning. Because if it was my life she ruined, it would be her name that echoed in the ashes. And what kind of wife does that to her own husband? Hey, if you're still watching, that means you're enjoying the story. I have one small request. I'm trying to reach my first 1,000 subscribers. If you like stories like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to join the journey. It means a lot to me. And trust me, even better stories are coming. You want to know what's wrong with this generation of men? Renee spat to her friend on FaceTime. They don't provide. They pretend. She paced across our, now her, loft in that silk robe I bought her for our anniversary. Her tone was bitter, dramatic, performative. She didn't know I was watching her through a private stream from a hidden backup cam I installed above the bookshelf. I wasn't stalking. I was collecting. Renee wasn't always like this. When I met her, she worked a small beauty counter at the mall. Her laugh used to sound real. She talked about dreams, starting a small skincare line, maybe writing a blog. Then came the followers. Then the influencer branding. Then Bryce, her personal trainer, her content partner, her backup plan. She became someone else, someone colder, someone addicted to control. Her new friends wore rented designer, drank $18 green juices, and spent more time taking pictures of their food than eating it. And Renee? She loved the new role, the wife with the perfect life. But what happens when a fantasy cracks? Bryce had no real money. He couldn't even keep up with her shopping habits. So what did she do? Blame me. Accused me of being distant, of ruining her vibe. She didn't want a husband. She wanted a prop. And when I stopped showing up to her Instagram shoots or liking her brand deals, she decided I was dragging her down. But a wife who throws out a man before she understands him doesn't know who she married. Because I wasn't the broke, silent guy she thought I was. And she wasn't ready for the man I really am. Not then. Not now. She played her part as a wife on Instagram, but forgot what it meant in real life. I'm not doing this anymore, Logan. You hear me? I'm not going to sit here and pretend you're enough. That was 3 months before the water. She stood at the foot of our bed, hands on her hips, in one of those overpriced robes from a hotel she didn't pay for. I remember the way she said, "Not," like I was a disease. "I'm not going to live like this," she went on, "with a man who doesn't hustle, who doesn't show ambition." Ambition? I worked 16-hour days consulting for 3-letter agencies she couldn't even name. She thought NSA was a Spotify playlist. But I never told her. That's on me. I thought silence was protection. I thought humility made me a better man. I thought staying grounded kept us strong. But every knot she threw in my face turned into something else. You're not exciting. You're not rich. You're not like my friends' husbands. Every insult became a crack. Every lie she told herself turned into a weapon aimed at me. What she didn't see were the receipts, bank accounts, offshore investments, a reserved lot for a future property I planned to surprise her with on our anniversary. I was building a legacy, but she didn't want legacy. She wanted leverage. The sad part? I wasn't even mad yet. I was stunned, quiet. Processing. Now, in the cold night air, shirt burned, pride shattered, I felt that word in my bones. Not enough. Not loved. Not hers. She stripped my identity from the man she thought I was. And I let her for too long. But I'm not going to be the one who stays down. You don't know him like I do, Renee said, laughing into Bryce's neck as she poured herself another glass of wine. They were tangled up on the couch, my couch, legs across the furniture I built, laughing like I didn't exist. Logan's harmless, she added. Always has been. If he knew about us, he'd probably cry in a notebook or write some weird apology letter. Bryce grinned. You're telling me your husband never fought back? Ever? Never. He's too soft. I could burn his whole life down, and he'd still ask what he did wrong. Knowing. That word repeated in my mind like a hammer. Because what Renee never understood was that I knew everything. I knew where they met, where they slept, where they thought they were hidden. I knew how she masked her secrets behind Instagram filters and vanilla captions like grateful for growth. I knew Bryce had a second phone. I cloned it months ago. I knew her passwords. I wrote the system that cracked them. What she didn't know is that I never needed to raise my voice to destroy her. I just needed time. This wasn't about rage. It was about timing. Let them laugh. Let them think they won. Because the real war doesn't start with shouting. It starts with knowing. And she had no idea who she married. I remember the exact moment I disappeared. Not physically, digitally. Deleted all social media. Wiped my name from public directories. Changed my GPS habits. Torched the apps that track me. Canceled subscriptions. Closed old email addresses. Scrubbed digital footprints so thoroughly, even I couldn't find myself. It was freeing in a twisted way. I'd spent years building her lifestyle, standing behind the camera while she soaked in the spotlight. I used to think being the invisible one made me strong, solid, unshakable. But somewhere in that silence, I vanished from the story. No more. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to break things. I was going to show her exactly who I was. Without saying a word, I started pulling my income from different LLCs, redirected my contracts, diversified assets, hired a digital cleanup crew I usually consulted for. Every cent of my $70,000 monthly income was buried in blind trusts and quiet pipelines. She thought she had cut me out of the picture. I was painting a new one she wouldn't be able to erase. And I'd make sure when she finally looked up from her self-absorbed spiral, she'd see what she lost. Because I never stopped being the man she didn't deserve. What are you going to do now? Maddie asked. Her voice was cautious, but curious. She was the only person who hadn't turned on me. Not yet. I'm going to make her regret everything, I said quietly. We were in a dim diner off I-94. She thought I needed comfort, but I wasn't here to be consoled. I was assembling war plans. I didn't just want her to hurt. I wanted her to crack. Publicly. Permanently. I opened my laptop, and the screen lit up with Renee's digital life. Her influencer contracts, analytics, travel bookings, a backdoor I coded into her marketing accounts years ago just in case. Maddie leaned in. What is all this? Leverage, I said. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was going to make a masterpiece. I began setting traps, canceling brand deals with fake compliance flags, triggering fraud checks, scrambling her beauty site's traffic data, unsubscribing her most active email clients. Nothing loud, just enough to make everything seem like her fault. One mistake at a time. No big blowouts. No warning signs. Just a slow, calculated unraveling. Maddie looked at me and asked, You sure you want to go down this road? I stared back. She made the fire. I'm just adjusting the burn. Because now, I was going to make this personal. If you looked at my clothes, you wouldn't guess it. If you saw my car, you'd assume it was a hand-me-down. Even my watch, an old leather fossil, nothing flashy. But every tap of that worn watch band was synced to real-time trades, encrypted files, and private contracts worth more than her entire influencer career. I make $70,000 a month. Quietly. Legally. Efficiently. Cybersecurity isn't glamorous. Most of my work happens behind walls. Layers of firewalls, government secrecy, and late-night coding marathons. My clients don't post reviews. They sign NDAs. I never told Renee. Why? Because real wealth doesn't need to scream. She judged me by how I dressed, how I lived, how I didn't flex. She thought I was stuck. She had no clue I was climbing every day, just not for Instagram. While she posed next to rented Lamborghinis and borrowed Dior bags, I was tracking digital threats for companies she couldn't pronounce. She said, "You're not enough." I said nothing, but now my silence had interest. I used my income to buy back every digital piece of her world she didn't lock down. Domains, adcredits, access points. I funded competitors to drown her traffic. I redirected her own followers to ghost pages. She didn't know what hit her. And that was the point. The man she called a burden was worth more in silence than her entire world in spotlight. I called it a plan for precision. No miss, no screaming matches, no cups, just clean, sharp, strategic dismantling. Step 1, reputation erosion. Step 2, financial chokehold. Step 3, public exposure. At the exact moment she thinks she's in the clear. I didn't want to destroy her quickly. I wanted her to feel it, bit by bit. Like a sinking ship, she keeps trying to plug with duct tape. Every morning, she'd wake up to a new glitch. Instagram analytics not loading, brand emails bouncing back, discount codes failing. Confusion would set in. Panic would follow. I watched it unfold like a surgeon watching a slow incision. Maddie, now on my side, fed me inside updates. She still followed Renee's influencer group chats, saw the cracks forming. Some were already whispering. Did she fake her last campaign? Why did her numbers tank overnight? Is she buying followers? The paranoia I planted was growing roots. But there was one rule I stuck to: never gloat. This wasn't about revenge photos or gotcha moments. This was about silence speaking louder than screams. And my plan? It was just getting started. Because when you underestimate a quiet man, you give him room to build. 1 month. That's how long it took to flip her world upside down. Day 3, Bryce's gym faced a tax audit. Day 7, Renee's main brand partnership quietly cut her. Day 12, her apartment Wi-Fi was mysteriously disconnected for non-payment. Day 17, 3 of her followers made viral TikToks exposing fake giveaways. Day 21, her ex-assistant Maddie was featured in a Women in Business magazine. Day 30, she posted a desperate selfie captioned, "Social media is toxic. I'm taking a break." I didn't have to touch her. I just let her trip over the lies she built. But you know what's wild? She still had no idea I was behind it. She probably thought the universe was punishing her. She probably thought Bryce just had bad luck. Or maybe, finally she wondered, was Logan ever really the fool? So here's what I want to know from you watching this. Where are you watching from right now? Which city? Which state? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious who's riding this storm with me. And who's already predicting what happens next. Because this story, it's only getting deeper. And someone's about to fall even harder. It plays in my head like a clip on loop. The second she threw that pot of boiling water, rage in her eyes, hands trembling, screaming nonsense about betrayal. You think you can play me, Logan? You think you can come and go like you're somebody? And then, splash. The heat bit in my shoulder, neck, collarbone. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I just stood there stunned. Pain didn't hit first. Disbelief did. You never think the person you once protected from everything could become the one you need protection from. But there I was, shirt soaked, skin blistering, and my wife looking at me like a rabid stranger. She didn't even flinch. Just stood there, chest heaving. "Get out. Now." And I did. Quietly. Without a word. But not before I made one small move. My hand slid across the entry table. I pressed the base of the lamp 3 times, slow, fast, slow. That triggered a silent upload from the cam inside the bookshelf. A backup I never told her about. A silent witness to everything she just did. She thought she threw me out. She didn't know I just captured the evidence that would destroy her later. That moment was her mistake. Mine was loving her too long. The hospital nurse raised her eyebrows when she unwrapped my shoulder. "This looks recent. What happened?" "Boiling water accident," I said deadpan. "Kitchen mess." She nodded, but I could feel her doubt. The burn was deep enough to scar. I didn't flinch. Not once. Not when she applied the cream. Not when the gauze touched raw flesh. I had felt worse. Not on skin, but in silence. The heat from the water? It faded. But the heat in my chest, that stayed. That burning, itching fire that whispered, she tried to erase you. She tried to end your story. Every man has a limit. That was mine. And now, the heat wasn't just pain, it was fuel. I stopped playing defense. I didn't just want her to fall anymore. I wanted the world to know why she was falling. Her followers? They like pretty things. So I started feeding them truth in doses. Screenshots of her real bank account with bounce payments. A Reddit thread from a former client detailing how Renee scammed their small brand. A video clip blurry enough to be anonymous of Bryce yelling at her in the gym parking lot. One spark at a time. People didn't even know who I was. But they were getting hot. And soon so would she. POV. Maddie. I used to carry her water bottles. Literally. Evian. Voss. Whatever brand was trending. She'd hand me a list before shoots. Make sure they're cold. And lined up perfectly. She never said thank you. She made me carry purses, cancel her nail appointments, even call Bryce when she wanted him to bring smoothies mid-shoot. And I stayed quiet for too long. Until Logan reached out. He didn't beg. He didn't rant. He simply asked one thing. Did she ever treat you like a human being? I said no. He said good. You're not the only one. Now, I wasn't just watching the storm. I was part of it. I knew all her dirty little secrets. How she forged her skincare ingredients. How she bought fake reviews. How she bullied a teen intern into deleting a tweet that went viral. So when Logan asked me to help, I said yes. I created a burner profile, a glass of water, and started dripping the truth, one post at a time. Nothing direct. Nothing illegal. Just honest. By the time her PR team figured out what was happening, the damage was already seeping through. Brands started asking questions. Followers started digging. Old friends started whispering. The girl who once made me carry water like a servant, now drowning in it. It all happened at once. The collapse wasn't loud. It was precise. It started at a hotel lobby in downtown St. Paul. A beauty expo. Renee was the keynote speaker. Big lights, banners with her face, half the audience waiting with ring lights and hashtags ready. I didn't show up. I didn't need to. I was already there, on every screen behind scenes. While she posed for red carpet pics, my silent code slipped into the event's Wi-Fi system. No hacking, just an anonymous error uploaded to the event organizer server. One wrong slide shown during her intro presentation. Instead of her reel, a different one played. No faces, just audio. A collage of recordings, her voice screaming at interns. Mocking fans, complaining about cheap brands and low-rent nobodies. No context, no caption, just raw exposure. The crowd froze. Someone whispered, "Was that real?" The organizers scrambled to cut the stream, but it was too late. Attendees already had their phones out. Clips hit TikTok before she even made it to the podium. Then Bryce showed up. Not planned, but perfect. He stormed in loud, red-faced, accusing her of stealing from their shared brand account. You think I wouldn't find out? You think you're smarter than me? Security escorted him out. She stood frozen. The queen had no script. No ismite. No idea what hit her. And me? I sat across the street at a rooftop bar, sipping black coffee, watching it all unfold through a live stream. Everything I needed to break her was already happening, at the exact time I planned. Where is he? Renee's voice cracked as she dialed the last number in her blocked contacts. It rang once. Twice. No answer. She was standing in the middle of her torn-up living room. Hair frizzed, one lash missing, barefoot on a rug she once bragged was imported from Paris. The TV was frozen. Wi-Fi down again. 3 brand partnerships had emailed her legal notices. Someone posted a blind item online, calling her a monster in lip gloss. Her comments were flooded with vomit emojis, scam alert replies, and angry DMs from ex-fans. The silence from me? Louder than anything. For the first time, she whispered to herself, "Did I mess up?" She tried to retrace everything. I used to bring her coffee in bed. I memorized her smoothie orders. I repaired her laptop before she even asked. I paid every bill, every trip, every whim. And I never asked for recognition. I only ever wanted to be me, the man behind her, not beneath her. But she buried that man in accusations and insults. And when she threw me out, She thought she erased me. Now, I was everywhere. In her decline, in her inbox, in the ruined deals, in the comments she couldn't delete fast enough. But I wasn't coming to save her. I was done being her safety net. Because the man she kicked out is not the man she left behind. I rebuilt me. Now she gets to meet him. POV, Bryce. I got kicked out of my own gym, Renee. Do you understand what that means? Bryce's voice echoed through his Bluetooth speaker as he stomped through the parking lot. The call was on speaker. His anger didn't care about volume. They froze my accounts. IRS wants to talk. Clients are walking. You set me up, didn't you? Renee shouted back through the phone. I didn't touch your money, Bryce. Stop blaming me for your trash business. He threw his protein shake across the asphalt. It exploded against his own car. But somewhere inside him, he knew this wasn't her doing. This was someone smarter, colder, quiet. Logan. That name hadn't come up in weeks, but it was floating around now, in emails, in rumors, in that unspoken tension they both felt. Logan had disappeared from their lives, but he hadn't disappeared. He was behind it. Bryce could feel it. Not loud, not flashy, just methodical. He looked at the gym he used to own. Closed early, boarded up, legal notices on the glass. His trainer's gone, his reputation in shambles. Everything kicked out from under him. You better fix this, Renee, he said out of breath, or we both go down. She didn't answer, because for the first time, she knew they already were. I sat alone in my private loft. Not the old one, the one she kicked me out of. This one was on the edge of the city, top floor, clean windows, no memories. Just me, my breath, my mind, my mission. I stared at a photo on my screen. Us, back when things were good. Or at least, when I thought they were. She was smiling. I was looking at her like she was my whole world. That man? He's gone. He died the day she threw boiling water on him and told him to get out. What rose in his place wasn't rage or bitterness. It was focus. Steel. Calm fury with a long memory. She thought she was breaking me. But what she really did was free me. Free from the act. Free from pretending. Free from the leash she wrapped around my neck with guilt and gaslighting. I had no more use for apologies. No more questions. No more hope that she'd ever understand the damage she caused. The man she tried to erase? He's the one writing this chapter. The man she thought was disposable? He's the reason her world is crumbling right now. And the most dangerous part? I don't want her back. I want her to look back and regret every single thing. Renee stormed into the conference room, still in designer heels, but her swagger was missing. Her PR agent looked up. You're out, Renee. What? She blinked. We had to drop you from the upcoming brand launch. Legal's worried. Plus the footage. The audio. That expose floating around Reddit. People are talking. They always talk, she snapped. But this time they're listening, the agent said. And that's the problem. She slammed her hand down on the table. You can't just drop me. I built this. I am the brand. No, Renee, the woman said, gathering her papers. You're the liability. As Renee stumbled out of the office, paparazzi caught her face, confused, flushed, tired. No filters. No presets. Just raw reality. She called Bryce. No answer. She messaged Maddie. Blocked. She opened her main account. Locked out. It was all slipping too fast. She looked around her apartment. Empty boxes. Canceled invites. Half-used products she used to get for free. The silence was louder than ever before. And for the first time, she whispered what she used to scream. Get out. But this time, no one was there to listen. She wasn't kicking someone out. She was the one being thrown out by karma. I watched the video on repeat. Renee's voice, sharp as a knife, caught in high-res audio from that bookshelf cam I'd hidden years ago. Beggars, get out. She said it like she was royalty. Like I was nothing. I posted a muted version, just 5 seconds, onto an anonymous subreddit about toxic relationships. No name. No context. Just a moment. It went viral within hours. Who talks to their husband like this? This feels evil. She sounds rich but empty. Why do I feel like this guy's about to make the best comeback ever? People didn't know it was me, but they knew it was real. They felt the poison in her voice. Maddie amplified the clip with a blog post about emotional abuse hidden behind luxury. She didn't mention names either, but her followers knew. Soon, every major comment thread, gossip page, and TikTok conspiracy corner was asking, "Who's the beggar wife?" It spread faster than I expected. Screenshots, clips, duets, think pieces. And while the world speculated, Renee watched it burn. She called her manager. No response. She posted a healing journey photo with a Bible quote. Comments disabled. Shares maxed out. DMs brutal. The woman who once screamed beggar at me was now begging for her reputation back. But the internet, it remembers everything. Renee was in full panic mode. "I need to get my accounts back." She muttered it over and over, pacing her bathroom, biting her nail extensions until one snapped off. Her ring light still glowed behind her, half-lit, forgotten. Her vanity, once spotless, was cluttered with makeup, unpaid invoices, and unopened packages. Get my life back, but was already gone. She tried logging into her brand's Instagram. Access denied. Tried emailing her agent. Bounce back. Tried reaching out to a few old PR friends. Left on read. Everything she thought she built, now out of her reach. And she still couldn't figure out how. "It's Bryce. He's setting me up," she whispered to herself. But Bryce was under investigation for tax fraud and gym equipment theft. His name was already being dragged across the fitness community's forums. No, this wasn't his doing. This was surgical, precise, personal. She grabbed her old phone. It still had one contact she hadn't tried yet. Me. She stared at my name on the screen, Logan Price. No emojis. No nickname. Just that old number I hadn't changed. She almost hit dial, but she didn't. Because somewhere deep inside, she knew I wouldn't help her get anything back. I was the one taking it all away. The event was small, invite only. Women in Tech Midwest. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't even listed. But I walked in anyway, press suit, fresh cut, clean watch. No cameras followed me. No one screamed my name. And still, every room I entered paused for a second. I was nobody famous, but I looked like somebody important. And that's when she saw me. Across the room, near the espresso bar, Renee froze mid-step. Her lips parted slightly. No more lashes. No stylist. No filters. Just a woman who once screamed at her husband to get out, now stunned at the man he had become. Her eyes scanned me like she didn't recognize me. And maybe she didn't, because the man she kicked out, he was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, wiser, unapologetically calm. I didn't say a word. I just nodded once, then turned my back and walked away. Renee stumbled after me, heels clicking fast. Logan, wait." I stopped at the door, half the room now watching. She looked desperate. Her voice cracked. I didn't know you were doing all this. I thought you were a beggar," I asked. Her silence was louder than a confession. "Funny," I said. "You told me to get out. Now you're the one outside, looking in." I didn't yell. I didn't break. I just walked away. And this time, she couldn't follow. POV. Renee, it's strange how quiet everything gets when the world stops caring about you. No pings. No buzz. No emails. No messages. Just silence. I lay on the floor of my half-packed apartment, phone in one hand, eviction notice in the other. Everything's gone. The accounts, the brands, the people, even Bryce. Last I heard, he took a plea deal and vanished. And Logan? He's everywhere now. In interviews, tech panels, investment groups. Quiet power. Controlled respect. I used to think being loud meant being strong. Now I understand. The strongest people say nothing and still win. He never raised his voice. He just disappeared, then came back as someone I couldn't touch. I keep replaying that night in my head. The boiling pot, the scream, the slam of the door. If I could go back, just once, would I do it differently? Maybe. But regrets don't change outcomes. And the truth? I didn't just lose him. I lost the version of myself that deserved him. POV. Logan, 2 years earlier, it was a Saturday. Renee sat on the kitchen counter, hair messy, no makeup, laughing so hard she snorted over a spilled smoothie. I swear, if you ever become rich and famous, don't start wearing turtlenecks and pretending to like jazz, she joked. I laughed. Noted, that version of her? She was different. She didn't care about camera angles or brand collabs. She cared about whether I made it home before midnight, whether we'd order pizza or cook together, whether we'd stay in bed all Sunday or hit the farmer's market. We used to share dreams like secrets. Her voice would go soft whenever she talked about launching her skincare line. I just want to make something real, she'd say. No filters. No fucknies. I used to believe her. Maybe I wasn't just blind. Maybe I was hopeful. But even then, even those soft moments, there were signs. When I mentioned saving instead of spending, she'd roll her eyes. When I said I wanted to stay off the grid, she'd call me boring. When I told her I was building a life for us, she said, "Aren't you building it for you?" And the worst part? That flashback version of me. He tried so hard to please her. But that man's gone now. And all he left behind is the memory of how far I've come. POV. Maddie. It was like watching a house collapse, one beam at a time. Renee didn't just lose followers. She lost trust, reputation, brand power, relationships. Every agency in town started distancing. Publicly, a major beauty board tweeted, "We do not condone toxic influencer behavior or the mistreatment of small creators. We stand with those who were silenced." It went viral. Comments flooded in. And guess who people assumed the tweet was about? Renee. More influencers posted cryptic, healing from toxic collaborators messages. Brands quietly scrubbed her photos from past campaigns. Search results started pulling up Reddit threads and drama breakdowns instead of press releases and product drops. She reached out to me, begged actually, said she was misunderstood, said she had no idea how cruel people were. I didn't reply, because I remembered every time she rolled her eyes when I talked about my goals. I remembered her calling me background help. Now, she was background noise. And Logan? He was playing chess while she barely held checkers. POV. Logan. I knew she'd reach out eventually. And she did, through a private message on an old, unmonitored email I hadn't used in months. Subject, can we talk just once? The body was short. No emojis. No drama. Just a line, not for forgiveness, just for understanding. I didn't reply right away, not because I was angry, but because I needed to think, was there anything left to say? 3 days later, I agreed to meet. Neutral ground, coffee shop, daylight, no audience. She walked in wearing all black. No designer logos, no heavy makeup. She looked tired, genuinely tired. She sat across from me, hands folded. "I'm not here to fix anything." "Good," I said, "because I'm not broken." She nodded. "Look down. I just wanted you to know you didn't deserve that. Any of it. And you didn't think of that when you poured boiling water down my back." I asked calmly. She flinched. "I know," she whispered. "You don't owe me anything. But I thought, maybe if I saw your face one more time, I could find the version of me that lost everything." I looked her in the eyes. "You're not going to find her," I said, "because she never existed." She nodded, teared up, didn't try to touch me, didn't ask for a second chance. And when she left, I didn't feel victory. I felt freedom. POV. Maddie, 2 years ago, I was crying in a walk-in closet while Renee screamed at me for buying the wrong flavor of alkaline water. Today, I stood in front of 200 women at a leadership summit, accepting an award for Young Entrepreneur of the Year. Funny how tables turn when you stop handing people knives. Logan believed in me before I even believed in myself. After I walked away from Renee's chaos, he reached out with a quiet proposal. "What if you built your own brand?" We started small. I had ideas. He had resources. While Renee was faking wellness with filters, I was building something real, clean, honest, powerful. No drama, just grit. And the best part? The same people who once ignored me while I carried Renee's bags were now asking to collaborate with me. They called it glow up. I called it karma with lipstick. I didn't trash Renee. I didn't mention her name in interviews. But everyone knew. They remembered how she treated people, how she talked down, how she stepped on others to look taller. Now she watches me from the outside. And that's the real story, not just Logan's revenge, but the rebirth of everyone she buried. POV. Logan. The invite came through Maddie's team. A panel on digital power and personal integrity. 4 speakers. 1 moderator. And by pure fate or poetic justice, Renee was attending. Not speaking, just attending. I almost said no, but then I realized something. I didn't need to prove anything. I just needed to show up. The auditorium buzzed with tech professionals, creators, brand execs. Halfway through the event, I walked on stage, simple black suit, no entourage. The audience clapped, not because they recognized me, but because I carried calm like armor. Renee sat 3 rows back. Still, silent. I didn't look at her. Not once. But I knew she was there, watching. The moderator asked, "Logan, what advice would you give to someone rebuilding after being underestimated?" I leaned into the mic. Stop asking people to see your worth. Build in silence. Let your wins do the talking. The crowd snapped their fingers, nodded, took notes. And Renee? She blinked back whatever was left of her pride. After the panel, she approached backstage. "No cameras. No muck-up. Just her." "I heard you've been busy," she said, trying to smile. "I've been building," I said. "That's different." She hesitated. "I lost everything." I paused. "No, you gave it away. One insult at a time." Then I walked past her. That wasn't revenge. That was justice. POV, Bryce. I never thought I'd see the inside of a courtroom unless I was filming a gym promo for a lawyer. But here I was, dressed in a wrinkled suit, cuffed, waiting for my name to be called. The charges were real: tax evasion, money laundering, stolen supplements linked to banned substances. And Logan? That silent freaking genius? He'd orchestrated it all. I didn't even know when or how he got in. But every anonymous tip the authorities got, every report that popped up in just the right place, that was him. I tried to flip on Renee, but she was already drowning. And now they wanted both of us. Her lawyer tried to paint her as the victim, said I manipulated her, that I used her brand for fraud, that I turned her against Logan. I laughed, loud, right there in the courtroom. "You don't get it," I told the judge. Renee was the mastermind. I was just the idiot who followed her plan. But they didn't care. Screenshots, audio, IP logs, wire transfers, all collected, all organized, all courtesy of Logan Price. He never needed to take the stand. He already won the case before it started. When the verdict came in, guilty, and the last thing I saw before they took me away was Renee burying her face in her hands. We both thought we were playing Logan. Turns out, we were never in the game. POV, Renee. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" My lawyer looked up, face pale. Bryce flipped. "He gave them everything." I blinked. "He what?" "He cut a deal," the lawyer said, "in exchange for reduced sentencing. He gave them documents, screenshots, voice recordings." My ears started ringing. The rest of the courtroom blurred out. This wasn't happening. I had stayed calm through everything, through brand losses, public shade, canceled invites. But this was betrayal from the last person who said they were still on my side. I thought Bryce was just mad. I didn't think he'd turn on me. "Recordings of what?" I asked. The lawyer hesitated. "Conversations where you discussed hiding revenue, forging brand invoices, threatening to leak false abuse claims if Logan took legal action." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. "There's also a voice note where you told Bryce, and I quote, 'Logan's too weak to fight. He'll crumble the second we push.'" I felt the floor tilt under me. Outside the courtroom, journalists swarmed. Someone shouted, "Renee, did you fake domestic abuse for clout?" I kept walking, fussed. But the truth? I was unraveling. Bryce turned on me. The internet turned on me. And Logan? He never had to say a word, because everyone else was speaking for him now. POV. Logan. I didn't want to be a public figure. But sometimes the truth refuses to stay in the dark. My phone lit up. A blog article titled, "The Quiet Millionaire Who Outplayed Everyone." A side-by-side photo. Renee, in designer heels screaming on a sidewalk, and me, in a quiet suit leaving a courthouse, unreadable. The story was out, and it was bigger than I expected. News outlets picked it up. Forum exploded. Videos popped up with titles like "The Greatest Silent Revenge Arc Ever," and "She Called Him a Beggar. He was worth $70,000 a month." I didn't post a statement, didn't give interviews, didn't tweet a thing. I didn't need to. They were doing it for me. Maddie texted, "It's spreading fast. You okay with this?" I replied, let it breathe. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted accountability. And now, people were questioning everything Renee ever claimed. Did she lie about Logan being broke? Why didn't she mention his actual career? Was the abuse ever real? Or just convenient? The public had finally stopped worshiping her brand and started watching her cracks form in real time. I didn't expose her. I just stopped protecting her. And the truth did the rest. POV. Logan. She knocked on the door like someone expecting to be ignored. I opened it anyway. Renee's mother stood there, windblown, older than I remembered, holding a small brown envelope. She looked up at me, eyes soft. I didn't come here to ask for anything. I just needed to say something. I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of my couch, took a breath, and said she was raised to believe love was measured by gifts, not patience. That power was louder than kindness. I failed her. I didn't say anything. She handed me the envelope. I found this in her drawer last year. Thought maybe you should see it. Inside was a photo. Me and Renee, before everything. Before the money. Before the betrayal. Before the scream. On the back, in her handwriting, I hope I never make him feel small. I stared at the words for a long time. She lost something good, her mother said, standing. And she knows it now. Doesn't excuse anything. But maybe it explains something. I nodded once. Thank you for saying that. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just turned and walked out quietly, like someone finally putting down a weight they'd been carrying too long. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. I just felt done. POV. Renee, I saw her once. It was brief, outside a gallery downtown. Nothing flashy. No paparazzi. No viral selfies. Just her, standing beside Logan with a soft smile and a natural confidence I couldn't fake on my best day. She wasn't draped in labels. Wasn't glued to her phone. Wasn't fighting to be seen. And yet, everyone noticed her. They called her Maddie now. Not my assistant. Not the intern. Just Maddie. I don't think she even saw me standing across the street, half hidden under a hoodie. But I saw everything. She walked beside Logan like she'd always belonged there. Like she understood him. Like she didn't need to ask what he did or how much he made, because she knew who he was. And that wrecked me, because I used to think I was irreplaceable. Now I was invisible. The man I once called weak stood beside a woman who didn't need to tear him down to feel taller. And I realized something. I was never his partner. I was his obstacle. She didn't win because she was prettier. She won because she respected the man I never took the time to understand. I turned away. The tears didn't fall. Not yet. But my pride? That never made a home. POV. Renee. I never thought I'd end up here. The motel walls were yellowed. The AC rattled like it had asthma. The vending machine in the hallway took my last dollar and gave me a melted granola bar. I sat on the stiff mattress, scrolling through my phone. Every app, locked. Every email, dead. Every fan, gone. The headlines kept piling in. Queen of clean beauty exposed. From fame to fraud, the Renee collapse. Former assistant turned entrepreneur shares her truth. I tried to go live one night, start a healing journey series. The comments shredded me in less than 10 seconds. You're not sorry. You're just broke. Where's your designer bag now? Logan was the real one. You lost him. Queen of mean turns into the beggar wife. That last one stung the worst. I used to call him that. Beggar. And now, I was couch surfing between motels. Begging for second chances. Begging for brand scraps. Begging for peace I'd thrown away. I walked past a bus stop ad for Maddie's new skincare line. She's the real deal, it read. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because I was too hollow to cry. This wasn't a fall from grace. This was karma. Full circle. I lost everything trying to be seen. And in the end, the only one who saw me was the man I burned. POV. Bryce, prison isn't like the movies. No gangs in the yard offering instant alliances. No underground fight rings. Just silence. Cold beds. Boredom. And time. So much time. I used to think Logan was a weak man. Thought Renee was just misunderstood. Thought I was smarter than both of them. Now, I eat my meals off a tray and fold laundry for extra phone minutes. The plea deal didn't save me. It just shortened the drowning. 3 years. That's what they gave me. 3 years of living in a world where no one remembers who I was, except as the sidekick who helped crash a brand. Logan never spoke my name in public. He didn't have to. His silence painted me guilty better than any testimony ever could. I heard Renee try to reach out. I didn't respond. She said we were a team once, that we could fix it. But teams don't leave you bleeding while they run off screaming. Truth is, she used me, same way I used her. But Logan? He didn't use anyone. He just moved forward, quietly, powerfully, without us. And now that I've lost my body, my freedom, my name, I finally understand what he meant by strength. It wasn't noise. It wasn't fists. It was outliving the people who tried to destroy you. And that's the kind of revenge I'll never be strong enough to earn. POV. Renee. The motel mirror was cracked, right down the center, like the universe split it in half just for me. I stood in front of it, barefoot, wrapped in an old hoodie I didn't even remember owning. My eyes were sunken, my skin dull, my voice sounded hollow, like someone I hadn't met before. I used to spend an hour adjusting lighting before a photo. Now, I could barely face a reflection. I looked into that mirror and whispered the same words I once screamed at the man who loved me. Beggars. Get out. I didn't recognize my own voice. Not because it was weaker, but because it finally sounded honest. I replayed that moment again, Logan standing soaked, blistered, quiet. The pot still steaming. The hate in my voice. The triumph I felt for finally taking back control. But I never had control. I had ego. I had fear. I had insecurity dressed up in luxury. He wasn't the beggar. I was. I begged for likes. I begged for attention. I begged for strangers to validate my worth because I was too afraid to ask it for myself. And now, there was no applause, no comments, no noise, just a cracked mirror and the woman who broke everything. And the worst part? There's no one else to blame. POV. Renee. The paper was thin, lined, and slightly torn at the corner. I hadn't handwritten anything in years. Not since college. Not since before all of this. I stared at the blank page for an hour. Not to plan it, not to phrase it right, but to ask myself if I even deserved to write it. I wasn't writing to win him back, or to beg for pity, or to explain the damage I caused like it was some complex trauma arc that excused everything. I just needed to be honest, for the first time in a long time. Logan, if you're reading this, I don't expect anything in return. You owe me nothing. You gave me everything, and I burned it. I used to think I was strong because I could walk away from love and still hold power. But I realize now, I wasn't walking away from love. I was running from myself. You were never weak. You were patient, steady, loyal, quiet in the way real strength always is. And I saw that as boring, because I didn't know peace when I had it. I won't list the mistakes. You already lived them. I won't ask you to forgive me. You already moved on. But I want you to know this. I regret everything I did to you. Every word, every silence, every betrayal. And I hope, somewhere in your new life, you forget my name just enough to smile again. Renee, I didn't mail it. Not yet. But for once I wrote something real. And maybe that's a start. POV. Logan, the letter came through my P.O. box. No return address. Just clean handwriting. The kind that used to sign contracts and product launches. But this time it was smaller. More still. I sat in my loft and read it twice. Not for sentiment, but for silence. She didn't beg. She didn't blame. She didn't twist her guilt into something pretty. She simply let go. And so did I. I folded the letter, slid it into the back of an old notebook, and tucked it into a drawer I rarely opened. Not out of pain, out of peace. Because I no longer needed proof that she saw what she did. I didn't need closure from her. I gave it to myself when I walked away and never turned back. And that moment, it wasn't loud. It wasn't some viral clip or final showdown. It was a man sitting alone, breathing, and knowing that everything that broke him was the reason he became unbreakable. POV. Maddie, the room was quiet. A single mic sat in front of Logan. His posture was relaxed, but you could feel the weight of everything he'd been through sitting in the silence between his words. We were recording episode 1 of The Quiet Ones, a podcast I pitched after months of watching him transform from victim to victor to something greater. I don't want a podcast about revenge, he said at first. I told him, it's not. It's about power, the kind that doesn't shout. So here we were. No fanfare, no flashy intro music, just a simple mic and Logan. I pressed record. People always ask what I did when my life burned down, he said. The truth? I didn't fight back. I rebuilt, quietly, relentlessly, piece by piece. He spoke plainly, with pauses that meant something. No sade, no names, but the story underneath? Clear. A man who was underestimated, mocked, discarded, and who chose growth over revenge. He talked about identity, pain, ego, healing. But the line that stuck with me most was the one he dropped near the end. You don't win by proving them wrong. You win by proving yourself right. We ended the episode there. No hashtags, no drama, just truth. And within 24 hours, it hit 10,000 downloads. Because people weren't looking for another scandal. They were looking for someone who survived quietly and still came out stronger. POV. Logan, I didn't plan for any of this. The attention, the messages, the emails from people I didn't know, thanking me for saying things they never had the words for. It started with a podcast. Then came the speaking invite. Then the DMs from kids in broken homes, women rebuilding after betrayal, even men like me, who'd been laughed at, dismissed, called weak for staying calm while everything around them exploded. They didn't need a hero. They just needed a reminder that silence didn't mean surrender. I wasn't famous, wasn't chasing followers, but somehow people found something in my story that felt like theirs. So I leaned in, started a mentorship program, free tech coaching for kids with no access, quiet funding for small businesses that had been mocked, written off, or walked over, just like I had. I did it without press. But word spread anyway. One of the teens I mentored messaged me late one night. Thanks for showing me that you could be smart, silent, and strong at the same time. You made me believe in building again. I stared at that message for a long time. Because that was it. This journey didn't end when I walked away from the woman who burned me. It began when I walked toward the man I was always meant to become. And now I wasn't just healing. I was helping others do the same. POV. Logan, the lake was still. Just me, a sunrise, and the woman beside me. Barefoot, coffee in hand, quiet like the morning air. No paparazzi, no chaos, no boasts, just peace. The kind that doesn't shout, the kind you have to earn. We rented a small cabin for the weekend. Nothing extravagant, no itinerary, just the quiet hum of birds in the trees and wind brushing across the water. I stood on the dock barefoot, looking out. You ever think about her? Maddie asked softly from behind me. I didn't turn, just nodded once. Sometimes, I said, but not with hate. She stepped beside me, and the pain, gone, or changed maybe, turned into something else. She didn't push. That's one of the many reasons she's still here. I closed my eyes and breathed in slow. I thought about the man who once stood on this kind of dock years ago, stressed, ashamed, silenced. The one who thought love meant enduring cruelty, who believed being quiet meant being weak. He was gone now. In his place stood someone who had nothing to prove and everything to live for. Peace isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of self. And in this stillness, for the first time in years, I felt whole. POV. Renee, I didn't expect to see him. I didn't plan it. Didn't dress for it. I wasn't wearing anything that said, notice me. No fizz, no muck-up, no musk. I saw the flyer for his talk, small community event. No press, just Logan Price, building forward after breakdown. I sat in the back. No one noticed me. And for once, I was okay with that. He spoke with the kind of calm that used to annoy me. Back then, I'd call it boring. Now, it sounded like freedom. He didn't talk about me. He didn't need to. He talked about purpose, building, silence as strength, the beauty of walking away without revenge in your hands. When the applause hit, I stayed seated. People lined up to meet him, shake his hand, thank him. I stayed in the shadows, just watching. And when the crowd cleared, I took one step forward. He turned just slightly. Our eyes met. No chat, no sham, just silence. I opened my mouth, then closed it. What could I say that hadn't already been said too late? So I just nodded and walked away. I didn't run, didn't cry, didn't beg. Just walked. For the first time in my life. I left quietly. Because maybe that's how you begin again. Not with a scream, but with a whisper of who you used to be. POV. Logan. It came through late, 2:17 a.m. Subject line. You saved me. I almost deleted it. Most messages lately were spam, collabs, or praise I didn't feel the need to hold on to. But something about the title stopped me. I opened it. Logan, you don't know me. I doubt we'll ever meet. But I needed to tell you this. I was going to give up. On love. On building. On everything. Until I found your story. Not the court documents. Not the gossip. The podcast. Your voice, steady and clear. Your words, simple, real. The way you didn't ask for pity or vengeance. I listened to one episode. Then another. Then all of them. And something in me cracked. Not in pain. In relief. Because I realized I'm not broken. Just rebuilding. Like you. I left my toxic relationship last week. I moved into a friend's guest room. I have no clue what comes next. But I believe now, there's a next. Because of you. A quiet listener, I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I needed the compliment, but because it reminded me of something I'd forgotten. This journey wasn't just about survival. It was about letting others know they could survive too. I hit reply. Typed just 4 words. You're already winning. Keep going. Then I closed my laptop and smiled. POV. Logan. It showed up in a small brown box. No name. No card. Just a package with my name on it. Left at the office I now rented for the mentorship program. Inside was a watch. Not just any watch. My old one. The same leather band Fossil Renee used to mock. The one she called cheap when I first wore it to dinner with her influencer friends. But this one was polished. Fixed. Restored. Tucked inside the box was a simple note. Some things are worth keeping. I held it in my hands for a long time. This watch used to be a symbol of what I lacked. Now, it was proof of everything I'd outlived. I slid it onto my wrist. The leather felt familiar. Like a memory I'd finally forgiven. I walked over to the window and looked out at the small group of students lining up outside for a coding workshop. Some were nervous, some excited, all of them looking toward a future they couldn't fully see yet. Just like I had once. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't ego. This was redemption. The kind that doesn't need a camera or applause. Just a second chance and a better watch to tell the time. POV Logan. The house wasn't huge. No marble counters. No glass stairs. No wall-sized mirrors. Just clean wood floors. White trim. Tall windows that caught the morning sun. And a porch where I could sit for hours without a single horn honking outside. It wasn't the kind of house I used to dream about. It was better. Because this one had peace in the walls. Maddie was inside, unpacking dishes. There was music playing softly, old jazz, the kind I never used to like until now. It didn't need lyrics. Just rhythm. Just breath. I stepped into the hallway, ran my fingers along the edge of a picture frame. Not of me, not of her, but of a sunrise we saw once on the edge of nowhere. That was the moment we both knew we'd moved on from who we used to be. I walked into the kitchen and found her barefoot on the tile, hair in a bun, laughing to herself because she couldn't figure out how to open a box labeled kitchen junk. And in that exact moment, I realized this was the life I thought I'd never have. Not because I wasn't worthy, but because I gave everything to someone who never saw me. Now, I didn't have to be seen. I was already home. And this time, I wasn't building to prove anything. I was building because it felt right. Because every brick was mine. POV. Logan. I drove back to the place she threw me out. Same porch. Same street. Same brick steps I'd stood on, soaked in boiling water 5 years ago. But now, I was wearing a clean suit. Car parked neatly across the street. Not to make a scene, just to feel the closure. I stood there for a moment, hands in pockets. No one came outside. The unit had new blinds. New paint. Someone else lived there now. It didn't matter. Because this place, this moment, wasn't about her. It was about the man who walked away and rebuilt without asking permission. I remembered every second of that night. The door slamming. Her voice. Beggars. Get out. My body burned. My pride crushed. But I hadn't come back to relive the pain. I came back to remind myself that night didn't end me. It began me. That was the moment the real version of me. The strong, grounded, unshakable man was born. And now, as I stood in the same place where I was once discarded, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel vengeance. I felt nothing but gratitude. Because sometimes life kicks you out so you can finally find the door you were meant to build yourself. POV. Logan, I didn't write a memoir. Didn't post a breakdown. Didn't drop a tell-all. I just lived. Quietly. Boldly. Completely. And now, sitting in my new life, with my feet up, a real woman beside me, peace in my chest, and a future I actually want. I look back not with regret, but with clarity. Because the man I am now, he was built from the ashes of the boy who stayed too long. The husband who gave too much. The man who was told he wasn't enough. She tried to erase me, but instead, she wrote my beginning. And to the one who called me a beggar, I hope wherever you are, you finally understand. You don't throw fire at someone who's already lit from within. Now, if you've come this far with me, if you've felt the sting, the burn, the silence, the rebuild, I've got a question for you, the one listening right now. How did this story hit you? Which moment got you the hardest? Tell me below in the comments. I read every single one. And if you felt something real here, if Logan's journey gave you chills, or made you pause, or made you think about who you really are behind all the noise, tap that like button. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And yeah, ring the bell icon because more bold stories like this are already on the way. Whether you're healing, or rebuilding, or just learning how to walk again after someone pushed you to the ground, this story wasn't just Logan's. It was yours too. Now it's your turn. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were him? What did this story teach you about love, revenge, or strength? This isn't the end. It's your beginning. Thank you for writing this story with me. Until next time, stay quiet, stay powerful, and always, always rebuild better. The end.